I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do right now. I have some eBay things I need to list. I've got work to do, but I just have to choose what to work on. So I'm going to get these things listed on eBay, and whatever clip you see next is whatever I decide to work on. Been listing stuff on eBay like crazy, just a bunch of random stuff that I've had for a long time. We got a shipment today, got a bunch of parts. This is a new Type RA short block, oil cooler, oil pump, cam gears, cam solenoids, all the good stuff for putting a new STI engine back together. Some freshly redone W25 cylinder heads, these guys, and the short block stuff is for this car right out here. So we're gonna get this thing in the barn today, and I might try and start it. Supposedly the engine rod knocked, and the owner tried to replace the bearings with the car still in the engine. By just pulling the oil pan off and trying to do it that way, which does not work on Subarus. I kind of feel like this one's going to sound horrific. It might not even run. I don't even know. I don't want to send something through the side of the block if I don't need to. So we'll get it cleaned off, we'll get it in the barn, and go from there and take a peek at it. I take back that I was going to try and start this thing because I forgot. The guy tried changing the bearings with the engine still in the car. There's the oil pan right there. So there's no oil in the car, and there's no way for me to put oil in the car. So I'm not even going to try because I don't need something exiting the engine that shouldn't be. This is going to be the next project, but the rest of this video, we're putting up some more shelves. So I will try to just make this as interesting as possible. I originally thought I was going to park my truck here, but that quickly changed to I just don't have room to park my truck in here. So I'm gonna build some more shelves because I need more storage in here. So let's get rolling on these. Hopefully it's not too long of a project. Hopefully it turns out pretty good. And just like that, we got some new shelving. Trying to accommodate some parts better. I feel like there's too much gap in between those. So I went with taller below for seats and stuff like this. And then over here for engine stands and engines. And then went with smaller spacing on the shelves up here. Got a little eBay section right here. So a couple different things going on, but we are going to get into this thing. We're going to get the engine together, and then we got to get this engine out, kind of decide what we want in terms of modifications on this thing. I might leave most of it on right now because I think it's tuned for the stuff that it's got. We got this thing pulled into the barn, and now the process is probably going to start with actually getting the engine assembled rather than pulling this engine. What's up, little kitties? We're going to open up some of this stuff, take a look at it. But we've got in this bottom box here a Subaru Type RA short block. There is the part number if you want it. I buy the Type RA short block because they're the same price as the non-Type RA, so why not? We've got some extra thermostats since we don't need those right now. Exhaust and intake oil control valves, an OEM master gasket set, 4 brand new intake and exhaust cam gears, an oil cooler, oil pump assembly. So basically any oiling components, I've got brand new right here. I've got a new turbo cartridge. I'm gonna clean the oil pan that's on the car. I'm probably gonna put a Killer Bee pickup on it. That's what I usually do. And that's gonna take care of most of the oiling components. These cylinder heads over here, fresh from the machine shop, W25 cylinder heads. And then modification wise, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. This has a Cusco catch can, 3-port boost controller, intake, downpipe, catback, and I think that's about it. I would like to get rid of this factory fueling setup here because they suck to just be up front. So I'm going to eliminate some of the regulators basically with a little kit. Gonna get rid of the catch can because I don't really want that on there. Might put an air oil separator on it. I think it's tuned for the parts it has, so I'm gonna leave them on probably startup and all that sort of stuff, so I don't have to get it tuned right away and I can decide what I want to do a little bit down the road. Not gonna be ripping around on it anyways. I think inside it's stock other than an air fuel ratio gauge. This is a nice car. It's a 15 STI limited, so not too bad. So yeah, let's get rolling on this thing. Let's get into getting this short block out, and then we're gonna start cleaning the oil pan, and then I can get this one out of the car and just transfer a bunch of components right over to it. I also have an Aizen timing belt kit that will be going on it as well. Lots of good stuff. Let's jump into it. Gotta clean out my bench first though. The first thing, which I haven't done one of these in a while, so I forget the exact order I do stuff. I'm gonna go grab the cylinder heads, get them laid out here, take them all apart, making sure that valve lash is at least close to what it should be. And then we'll have to check again once we get it bolted down to the short block. Sometimes I have to Scotch-Brite a bunch of stuff to get the cams to turn smoothly, all that sort of stuff. I don't want to do that with the cylinder heads on the short block. So I'm gonna get the heads out here and do that first. This is gonna be a heavily edited version of me putting this engine together. So how quickly and easily it looks like it goes together is not how it goes, just so you know. I've not even opened these up yet, and I've had them done for a long while, so hopefully they're basically good to go. Nothing like a nice fresh set of some cylinder heads. Passenger, driver side. All right, so I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna torque all these down, and we are going to check the valve lash. Do I have any cams? I don't. I'll just show you here. We're going to make sure that these cams spin freely, because sometimes you get them where they don't spin freely. Like this one does not spin too freely. And then the other thing is to ensure that valve lash is set correctly. So valve lash is the gap between the bottom of the cam lobe here to the cam bucket. We need to make sure is the proper gap, using some feeler gauges and sticking them in between there to make sure we have the right gap. If we don't, hopefully we have the buckets that we can just swap the cam buckets, because I don't want to remove any valves. I do have the machine shop set valve lash, and they usually get it pretty close, but before the cylinder heads are on, the main thing are getting these cams to spin freely, and then we can do the final valve lash adjustment once the cylinder heads are onto the short block. I'm just going to make sure that it's pretty close, so I'm just torquing these all down. Just bought this Icon torque wrench because I didn't want to buy another snap-on one. Torque down. Now the intake spec I believe is 0.008 inches, and that's like plus or minus 0.0016. So basically for the intake side, I try and land between 0.007 to 0.009, and that will be within spec of what it should be. The 0.008 slides under 2 of these, so I'm going to bump up to the 9 and make sure the 9 doesn't slide underneath them. The 9 does slide underneath one of them. Now I need to make sure that the 10 doesn't slide underneath it, the 0.010. It does not, so that's technically within spec. Might eventually move that a little bit. I like to try and get them all pretty close. The 0.007 slides under all of them. So technically this one is done and within spec. Let's try this side now. We'll start with the 0.008 again. All right, the 8 slides under those. Let's check the 9. Does not. So those are both 0.008, which is good. And then the 7 hopefully slides under these. It does. Perfect. So this one is also in spec. Wow, look at that. We're off to a good start. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe the exhaust is going to be way off. Now, the exhaust spec, 0.014 with the same tolerance. The 0.0014 that you see here, I can be within tolerance. I can also use this one size up, which is 0.015, and I can use one size under, which is 0.013. So I need, for the exhaust side, to use one of these three to fit, and no smaller or no bigger. Otherwise I need to make some adjustments. This might be a little bit boring, but it's important because it's a very critical part of the engine that it would run without this done properly, but it probably wouldn't last super long, or not as long as it should. These are all in spec, 0.013, and we're gonna check this all again once we get these bolted down to the short block, because it might change. But I wanna just get a ballpark. Are we close right now? Do we need to make any major changes? So after this, then I'll move on to trying to free up these cams, make sure they spin really nice. We wanna be able to grab them just by the ends of our hands. Like that one spins pretty good. This one spins pretty good. But this one, that one's okay. This one, not so good, so that's gonna need some work. This one's probably gonna need some work. Might need to change the bucket just a little bit. Just go to a little bit thicker of a bucket and it should be good to go. But we're really close. So now I'm just gonna make sure these cams spin freely, specifically that one, and we'll go from there. These all have to stay in order. You can't mix, match, and do whatever. This one has an E on the exhaust side. This has an I on the intake side. So we'll just make sure when you take these off, you don't throw them all over the place and get them all mismatched. Everything looks pretty nice, pretty clean. Sweet. So these cam buckets can come out just like this. Let's see, this is a 489, or I think these are, it means 4.89 millimeters. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll have to go look and see if I can find something that's really close, just a little bit thicker. So we'll do that later though. We gotta work on other stuff. I can't get too distracted here. I get so distracted so easily. Way too ADHD. All right, I just cleaned the heads up a little bit, make sure everything's nice and lubricated. And we're gonna assemble everything again, torque it all down. This part can be very, you might have to repeat a lot of steps over and over again, which gets old, but you gotta do it to give this best possible chance to run well and run for a long time. I think I see a little burr right here. You gotta just pay attention to that. Ooh, almost lost the cam. That's better. All right, let's torque this all down again. Okay, all torqued down again. Spin this around so you guys can see better. I do have to keep in mind, there will be a cam gear on the end of here. So first of all, I have gloves on with oil on my gloves, and I'm holding onto the little end of the cam, and I can spin it by hand. That's kind of like, for me, if I can spin this thing pretty easily, then we're looking pretty good. This looks to be, oh gosh, I can't remember. Oh, look at left hand right there. Just like that. Look how easy that spins. Now we'll do this side. So now the next step is we're gonna get the short block pulled out. Again, I haven't done one of these in a while, so I can't remember exactly what my next method or my next plan is, but we're gonna do whatever that is. You'll see what it is, and then eventually we'll get around to getting close to putting these cylinder heads on. All right, let's open up the magic. The old EJ25. I was gonna say reliable, but I held my tongue. Looky there. Nice and fresh. Nice. Woo! Oh, that wouldn't be too good. Make sure it's not locked up. I don't need to spin it over a bunch of times, but I actually don't want to spin it over a bunch of times. I just want to make sure that it does spin. Awesome. You want to make sure that the deck is in good condition, that there's no like chunks out of it or it was dropped or anything of the sort. And then make sure there's no big scoring in the cylinder walls. Don't see anything on this side either. Thankfully, the Subaru short blocks already come with all the wrist pin plugs installed. Comes with the rear main installed. Everything looks pretty good. Let me flip it up on its back. Not really much to see here, but make sure there's no big scores or chunks out of where the oil pan mounts up. What's up, kitty? Hi. What? What? What, kitty? Hi, sweetie. Where's your fatso brother? Where is he, buddy? All right, back to the important stuff. Everything looks pretty clean. So I'm gonna say this one's good to go. Definitely wanna get it on the engine stand, and then we're gonna start looking into getting oil pickup and the oil pan on, which we need to clean the oil pan, and then get the cylinder heads bolted on. And that's kind of the main stuff until we get the engine out of this guy, and we can transfer a lot of little stuff Like we can put a new oil cooler on, we can put a plug in here, all that sort of stuff that we got to do. But we'll need the other engine for that, like the oil pressure sensor, PCV valve, all this sort of stuff that needs to come from that engine. So let's get this thing on the stand. I would recommend this method. You're gonna spin this thing around like that, and then take this part off of your engine stand, and then once you get this bolted onto the engine, then put this on the engine stand. Otherwise, you're fighting, threading these in, lining these up. It's a big pain. And then see if you got the strength to do this. Oh, just like that. Sweet, now the engine is ready to be worked on. I'm gonna say the first couple things we're gonna do: oil pickup, baffle, oil pan, oil pump, cylinder heads. I'm probably gonna start with oil pump and the oil pan. That's what I'm gonna say. First thing I'm gonna do is clean out this oil pan. I'm gonna wire. How's it going? My old phone doesn't do that. Your phone doesn't? Yeah, this one does.
It'll make like your legs really fall.
Perfect. But I'm like, so it actually turns out that this whole video has been a joke, and I didn't even know it. So I started obviously tearing this car apart, getting it ready, got the cylinder heads all ready. You saw all that already. And I had one of my local customers slash buddies. He buys a lot of stuff from me, so he gets first access and best prices to most of my stuff. And we had talked about him buying this car possibly as it sits, because he likes to rebuild the engines and drive them and sell them. But he shot me a message this morning and said, hey, I'd like to put a deposit down on that white car. And I said, good thing you messaged me when you did, because another day or two and I probably would have had the engine in this car. So we're actually not putting an engine in the white car. He is sending me a deposit for this. And for today, I'm going to be doing some eBay listing stuff, probably, but we are actually going to be putting an engine in that car. At least that is the plan as of right now. I also could work on that one to get an engine in it, but I don't really want this engine sitting around for a long period of time. I'd like to get it in a car, get it running. So I think that hatch is going to be the thing. Although I don't really want to drive that hatch in the winter, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Maybe I'll probably do the break-in, put the miles on it that I need to, and then it might sit for a little bit, but at least the engine will be in the car and it'll be running. I'm half bummed, half happy. I know it's a really stupid problem to have and I should be really grateful for it, but I didn't know what I was gonna do with this car in terms of driving it, because I have my 17 STI that I drive in the winter, and so I could have just parked that one, but I didn't really want to drive this car in the winter just because it's pretty nice. So it was probably gonna sit until the summer or the spring until the snow is gone. But I also have then the yellow hatchback that I drive. So again, stupid problem, but that I should be really grateful for having. But it kind of takes the load off of that. I don't have to insure this car and pay for insurance and put the miles on it. So with the change of plans, hopefully in the next video, we will continue the engine assembly and hopefully get the engine into the green or purple STI hatchback, however you want to describe it. Hopefully you guys are getting your projects done, and I'll see you in the next video.